Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. But I'm about to get into this video. First, I'm gonna read this scripture. Jake is all fucked up. I'm just being raw on this one. So if you don't like it, cut it off. Jake is stupid. He's about the stupidest retarded niggas you can ever, on the face of this earth, Jake. And you got the other nations that is in a stupor too. Don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't know the Most High. They don't know nothing. They just know what they've been colonized to believe. I'm gonna get into that history of how the so-called white man turned you ninja's mind out. They got you seeing so-called white Jesus in your mind. I'm gonna get into this scripture first, but I'm the beloved brother Halaya did a beautiful lesson going into the stupid nature of Jake. You know what I'm saying? Jake is in a spiritual stupor, drunken. When have you ever been drunk? You out of it. Jeremiah 4:22. And it's the Most High explaining to us how our people is. And we're telling you the nature of our people. For my people is foolish. He didn't say they were smart. He didn't say they was competent. He said it was foolish. You know what I'm saying? You go into the definition of foolish, it's goddamn a clown. You know what I'm saying? A disgrace. They have not known me. They don't know Yahweh and Yahweh Shah. They know them by other names that they've been given through their oppressor. And that's what they glorify out of their own ignorance and them being incompetent and dumb. They're sadish children. When you go into this word sadish, it means stupid. And have none understanding. You Christians don't know shit. Especially J Christians, they don't know shit. They just know what they've been taught through plantation Christianity. And they're going to die with them demons. They're wise to do evil. So to worship so-called white Jesus, that's evil. To see so-called white Jesus in your mind, that's evil. But to do good, they have no knowledge. So everything about this life and life in general is about acquiring knowledge. That's why people go to these demonic colleges, right? So let's get into this video of this stupid ninja. And we sick of you Christians. Give me 1 second. Let me get into this video. So he's not lamenting over the so-called white man version of Christianity. I'm gonna get into the heinous crimes and atrocities and the things they have done to you. But Jake wanna just play the video.
Black Hebrew Israelite. What are those?
You open up with that term black Hebrew Israelite, invoking what the so-called white man has taught this stupid ninja. You know what I'm saying? Black is associated with something negative. White is associated with something positive. This is why they did this.
Black Hebrew Israelites, online prophets for hire, and every other fake so-called prophet, teacher, preacher out there who's twisting the scripture to fit their own agenda. You can keep your cherry pick verses over there. Cause see,
and this stupid ninja. See, you Christians you're a different kind of stupid, because the same accusations that you accuse us of doing, you do. When we precept, we going from one place to another to connect and make a point. When you do it, it's fucking stupidity. Because the most infamous Christian scripture in the world is John 3:16. And you people go to that scripture, you read it out of context, you don't know what the fuck is going on, you don't know none of the history, you just reading what you've been taught. So it's not that the same thing as cherry picking? When you didn't read John chapter 3, verse 1. You didn't read the whole chapter, you just read John 3:16. Stupid.
it's a lot of us know that you ain't preaching the Bible, you pimping it. I heard some of your lives. Send a gift. Sow a seed.
Don't the Christian church do that? But you do got some wicked Israelites that are pimping out Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and they're gonna get their ass dealt with. But in no way, it's not just a hypocritical shit he just said. It's not the Christian church known for doing this. That's what Christianity, the modern day Christianity, what the prosperity gospel, so called, it's all about. Where that same energy at, nigga?
Pay me $100 a month and I'll be your mentor. I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Bible. Now, where in the Bible did Jeremiah Isaiah, Elijah, John, Paul, where in the Bible did they charge anybody any money? Where did they charge people to hear the truth? They suffered for that word. I bet you won't suffer.
And this like I said, this your typical bugged out nigga Christian. You know what I'm saying? They don't know shit. They just know how to roll a blunt up and talk shit. You know what I'm saying? Play video games. One of these ninjas. Don't know no history. Is not studious, but running his fucking mouth. And yeah, you do have some wicked Israelites that's doing this, and the Most High, like I said, is gonna deal with them. But he don't have that same energy towards the Christian church. Is not the Christian church the biggest hustle in the world? When they say sow your seed, and they actually have raffles and shit in there. We need 10 people to give $1,000. Do not a Christian church do that all the time?
They suffered for the gospel. I bet you won't suffer. You trying to monetize it. That alone exposes your hustle. And then them black Hebrew Israelites, y'all out here preaching that God is only for one people. What? His grace.
You see in the mind of a colonized Christian. So when a lot of our people won't tell you this in words, but this is what they're thinking inside of their mind. So the Most High is putting on a show. He's showing us how the 2/3 think about what we're saying. This is how they won't. A lot of them won't say it. They won't say it vocally, but this is how they feel inside. Let's keep going.
This is limited to a skin tone or a whole nation, just one individual. Man, whatever, man. That's not scripture. That's racism. Dressed up in religion, homeboy.
Check it out.
My Bible said.
He said racism is not, man. That's why I say you Christians are very hypocritical. You all don't nothing make sense. That's why we don't take you seriously. So everything that you said can be applied to the modern day Christian. Matter of fact, let's get into some of that history. Give me 1 second. My brother never put to death a whole, you know what I'm saying, genocide and all that. So where's that same energy towards the Christianity that because he don't know shit. He don't know how Christianity got to where it's at right now, his form of Christianity. Let's get into this. It says early presidents in Spain and Portugal. 1493, Papal Bull granted Spain and Portugal rights over discovered non-Christian lands. And when I say Christian, I'm talking about the redefinition of what they took a Christian to be, right? This was a so-called white man Christian. What the image of so-called white Jesus and all those lies and all those false doctrines that's built inside of and baked inside of Christianity. It says conversion of indigenous peoples, that means people that was already there, was framed as a mandate, and resistance could justify conquest. You hear this? Take your shit, rape, rob, pillage, no concern for anything besides getting money and wealth and land. It says conquistadors, it's 1513. Conquistadors was legally required to read this document to indigenous peoples, often in Spanish, which locals didn't understand. It ordered them to accept Christianity, is that fucking racism? And submit to Spanish rules. So that's why you go into different parts of the world, you know, the tribes, the Israelites that's been conquered speak Spanish. That's why some tribes speak English, depending on the Edomite nation that subdued them. It says refusal supposedly justified war, enslavement, or execution. Is that not fucking racism? This was basically convert or die, written into colonial law. Let's keep going. It gets more graphic. It says, number 2, the American, Spanish, and Portuguese colonies. It says the Caribbean, and Mesoamerica, Columbus and later conquistadors, Cortex in Mexico, Pizarro in Peru, destroyed indigenous temples, burned sacred objects, and killed priests. Mass baptisms were sometimes carried out under duress, with indigenous people threatened with violence if they resisted. Is that not racism? See, this is your Christians go to. You stupid. This get me inflamed, man. It says the Inquisition of the colonies, indigenous people who practiced their religion secretly after conversion, risked torture or execution for idolatry or heresy. It says Jesuits missions In some areas, Brazil, Purgary, something like that, missions were built where indigenous people were relocated, taught European languages, and were required to adopt Christianity. Is that not racism? Leaving or resistance could mean violent punishment or being sold into slavery. Let's keep going. They went to Africa. They went to everywhere in the world with this same blueprint. Portuguese expansion, 1400s to the 1600s. On the West African coast, Portuguese traders and missionaries pressured local rulers to convert as a condition of trade alliances. In places where rulers resisted, violence and slave raids followed. Missionary colonial partnerships, 1800s. In southern Africa, that's why you got a lot of them Hamites and them Israelites that's mixed among them, that's Christians. Resistance missions often meant being denied land rights or facing military force from colonial governments. Allied with missionaries. I bet this ninja don't know this history. That's why he's talking out of pocket. They went to the Philippines. It says Asia, Slovakia, Spain. Spanish forces waged war against resistance groups, villages, and refusing baptism were often burned and the leaders executed. By the 17th century, Christianity was almost universal, but through pressure as much as faith. They went to Hawaii, they went everywhere with this shit. Protestant and Catholic missionaries with naval backing destroyed indigenous temples and outlawed traditional religious practices. Non-converts risked fines, imprisonment, or violence. So yes, in many regions, European colonizers did present Christianity as a stark choice: convert or force or face violence, depossession, enslavement, or death. Do you hear this? Niglet. Sometimes it was formal. It says other times informal. Missionaries leveraging food, armies, and enforcing order. Consequences: mass death. Many indigenous groups who resisted were massacred. Whole villages were sometimes exterminated after refusing baptism. Is this not motherfucking racism? And we never did none of this stuff. Cultural genocide. Languages, songs, and sacred knowledge were deliberately erased. Syncretism. To survive, some indigenous people merged Christian symbols with their own traditions. The version of Guadalupe in Mexico, that's you, Issachar, they ain't heavy into idolatry. White Jesus, they pray to the Mother Mary, all this craziness, man. Number idols. It says blending Catholic and indigenous meanings. Intergenerational trauma. Forced Christianity was not just about personal belief, it was tied to loss of land, family, and cultural identity. It says methods of forced conversion. Direct threat of death or enslavement. Accept Christianity or be killed or enslaved was not uncommon, especially in the early conquest. You hear this, ninja? It says, let me just jump down a little bit because I'm running out of time. Child removal. Children were often taken into mission schools where they were cut off from indigenous culture, religion, and culture. Legal penalties. Practicing indigenous religions could result in torture, execution, fines, or imprisonment. You see this? You see this? And a lot of you jakes, you don't know shit. You be talking out of pocket. You don't know shit. You just run your fucking mouth. You know what I'm saying? And it goes on and on. I'm gonna get into more lessons about this. I got other things going. But you need to understand this, right? Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Bahashim Rahak Kodash Shalom.